doppelganger often means that death will soon follow, even more so if you see them more than once.
So it was a school day. When school ended, I went home and my older brother walked out of his room and asked me where I was. I told him I was at school all day and asked him why. He then explained to me that in the morning, he was 100% sure he saw me sitting on the couch, just staring at the wall, not even blinking. My older brother tried to talk to me, but I wasn't talking or anything. So he's like, okay then. And he goes to his room because he thought it was odd. Then later my dad walks in and apparently he saw me too, sitting on the couch. He also tried to speak to me, but I didn't say anything or move. I just stared at the wall while I was sitting on the couch. Later on, when I got home around 3 p.m, my brother walks out and says, "Where were you?" So I said I was at school and he told me what happened. I said that's so weird. And I was wearing a white t-shirt and white basketball shorts when I was sitting on the couch. That day I wore jeans and a pink shirt, so no clue why I was just sitting there and not moving and why I was wearing those clothes all white. I mean, I did own clothes like that at the time, but I didn't wear it the day my brother and dad said they saw me wear them. Another time was strange. My dad and two older brothers went out to the store to get food and I was still at school, so I wasn't with them. They all told me they heard my voice singing. My brother got irritated and said, "Shut up." Then my older brothers and dad turned to look in the back and realized I was never in the car with them. They were all freaked out, so I don't know who was there with them and who was singing in my voice. Just a bit odd. No idea who we are seeing or hearing. Just strange, I guess. Other people told me that they have seen me in other places when I was never there at the time, and I don't have a twin or anything like that.
This really happened, and it's one of the most unnerving things. So, it was the 4th of July, and my brother and I were setting off fireworks in the woods behind our house. We were pacing back and forth, and with our flame and cigarette lighter, and lighting firecrackers and other small fireworks. It was around 2 in the morning, 5th of July. I left to go get something to drink, and left my brother there lighting fireworks. I get back around 10 minutes later, and he asked me for the lighter. I told him I didn't have it, and I left it with him, and he was actively lighting firecrackers as I left. He says, "Yeah, I know, but I gave it to you a couple minutes ago. Where is it?" I know my brother. This isn't something he'd lie about. We've talked about it many times over the years, and the story he has never changed. The moon was bright that night, bright enough to see. He says he saw me in the same outfit, same face, same hair, and everything. Apparently the doppelganger said nothing, went up and put his hand out. My brother assumed it was wanting the lighter. He gave the lighter and whatever it was walked away. Never said a word. These were woods privately owned by my family, far out in rural Texas. Nobody else was out there, and if they were, that doesn't explain how they looked exactly like me. We continued setting off firecrackers until around 4 in the morning, having to use a short cigarette lighter because the thing stole our aim and flame. Pretty creepy.
When I was in my early teens, I had a younger cousin come visit my parents' apartment to play video games. During his visit, it was only me, him, and my father. Our layout of the apartment is railroad style. Parents' bedroom in the back, followed by mine, bathroom, kitchen, then living room. As my cousin and I were playing video games, I mentioned to him if he was hungry, because I was going to the kitchen to fetch us some type of snacks. So I walk to the kitchen, open the refrigerator door, squat down and start looking for some munchies. No longer than a few seconds after that, I just happen to look up as my father walks by and stares down at me, with a look of disgust on his face, then continues to walk into the living room. I said to myself, "What's up with that dirty look?" I laugh a bit as I'm shaking my head, stand up, and just as I'm turning to walk into the living room, I say out loud, "What's your problem?" But there was nobody there. Nothing. Just an empty living room. And I'm standing there with a confused look on my face. Did my imagination play a trick on me? I literally just saw him give me this nasty look, and now there's nobody in the living room. I go back to my bedroom and ask my cousin if he had seen my father walk by, to which he replied, no. And that kind of freaked him out a bit. So I go to my parents' bedroom, and there was my father. He was folding his clothes, and when I asked him if he had just walked by me to go to the living room, he told me that he was in the room the entire time. Then I said, "Hey, you changed your clothes." And he replied back to me saying that he'd been wearing his current clothes all day. Well, mark this one up as strange because I have no explanation for it.
I have a couple of experiences with doppelgangers. The first was when I was about 19. I suddenly woke up from my sleep and immediately had a frightening feeling. I had a wardrobe in front of my bed at the time, with a full-length mirror on it. In the mirror, I can see my bed and the windows behind it. In the window behind me, I saw what appeared to be my mom, but she had a seriously twisted look on her face, an expression that was creepy and I've never seen on her before. She was staring at me in the mirror, and for a couple of minutes, all I could do was stare back in fear. I thought perhaps I had sleep paralysis, as I had experienced sleep paralysis all my life, but it turned out I could move. I sat up fast and looked out the window, but no one was there. I looked back in the mirror and she wasn't there either. It wouldn't have been impossible for her to go anywhere, as my room was in the second story, and the window looked out to my balcony, which is only accessible through my room. It is also unlikely she was able to get onto the balcony through the house, as she would have had to come through my room and open the incredibly hard to open, noisy banging balcony door that was behind my bed to the left, right by my head. I got out of the bed and went to check on my mom, who was fast asleep in her bed and had clearly not been through my room, or jump off the second story balcony to go through the front door, up the stairs and back in her room in a matter of 1 to 2 minutes. I turned all the lights on and stayed up for the rest of the night. The second time was a few weeks ago. At first all was fine. I was in bed and I woke up in the night. I rolled over to hug my boyfriend and immediately felt like it wasn't him. But I didn't want to believe that. I just wanted to feel comforted. He was making weird noises and I told him to stop. He was being weird. He then spoke in a voice that wasn't his. I looked up at him, and he had the same twisted look on his face that I saw my mom the other time. It was even creepier to see it up close. I told him, "You're not my boyfriend," but I was too scared to move. He tried to convince me for a bit, and I kept asking, "Who are you?" I got out of my bed and terrified, kept demanding, "Who are you? You're not him." He then got up and started throwing and dragging me around the room while I kept crying, "You're not my boyfriend." He managed to drag me out to the hallway, with many moments of me pulling and fighting away, and him throwing and dragging me. He was a lot stronger than my boyfriend was. He was laughing and seemed disturbingly amused by all this. I suddenly jolt and I'm in my bed sitting up with my heart racing. I thought, thank God. Hopefully that was just a dream, but it felt so real, and I was conscious and in control of my actions the whole time, unlike in a dream. Then I thought, sleep paralysis. But then how could I move and make decisions? After searching for a phenomenon like this, I have seen a bit about astral projection, Could this be the case? I thought I would check to see if any of the details in the house were different to my potential dream, but they were the same as I remembered, including the bumping frame on the wall that was crooked, and I had not noticed that the day before. I really hope it was just an incredibly real dream, but having experienced sleep paralysis all my life, I'm pretty good at deciphering what is awake hallucination / sleep paralysis and what is a dream. It definitely felt like the former. Has anyone experienced similar things or encountered doppelgangers before? Does anyone know what this weird dreaming but feeling absolutely awake and lucid while being in my environment that looks exactly the same as it was is? Any feedback would be appreciated.
I'm writing this because I simply do not have an explanation for what happened. I seem to be the only one who cared to remember it. At the time, I was living in New Mexico with our grandparents. My family and I lived there temporarily before buying a house of our own. I was around 10 to 11 years old at the time, and I have 2 younger siblings, a brother and a sister. The house itself was on the edge of the village and was distant from the rest of the people. I shared a room with my brother and had separate beds facing the door to the room. The room itself was connected to a hallway that connected to the living room. It's important to know that the hallway had no exits beside going through the living room, and the other rooms led to a bathroom and the master bedroom. There were not any windows to crawl or exit out of to avoid being seen or heard. My parents went out of town, shopping with my sister. The only people that were in the house were myself, my brother, and my grandmother. Me and my brother were in my room doing our own thing. I remember sitting on the end of my bed. The door started to creak slowly open. I looked up to see who it was. It was my mother. She was hunched over, peeking into the room, scanning left to right. Her eyes landed on me. Her eye lit up with shock. "Mum?" I said in a creaked voice. She held eye contact, let her hand off the door and straightened her figure. Her eyes looked familiar, but they were the wrong color. It was all brown and had yarn scarves made from yarn. Her clothes had a similar texture. Something was off about her. The longer I looked at her, the more I noticed. Her skin was unnaturally pale, and her face had wide eyes with shock and frustration, like I do not belong where I was. To this day, she has never given me that face. It looked like she had never seen me before. At this point, I stood up and repeated myself, "Mum, what are you doing here?" She gazed at me with that same lifeless expression, backing up into the hallway. "Where are you going?" She walked down the hallway, still looking at me for a little bit. She turned her head away as she walked out of my view. I was already walking up to the door as she came out of view. I looked down the hallway to see where she went. She was gone. I walked out to the middle of the hallway, frantically repeating the same phrase. "Mum? Mum? Mum?" My grandmother came to me and hugged me, telling me that I must be seeing things. If only that was the case. I wish that I could say that it was a hallucination. The only problem with that explanation is that an illusion does not open doors. My only explanation is that it was a demonic presence taking the form of my mother, or I perceived it as my mother simply because its form was not comprehensible. Hello watchers and listeners, thank you so much for watching. I want to say a huge thank you to GenSen for joining me on this one. He is actually one of the first of the bigger channels to have reached out to me and encouraged me when I was still new, and that really boosted my confidence. And for that, I'm forever grateful. So it really is an honor to have him on my channel. I'm sure most of you know him, but if not, you really should check out his channel. He's an amazing narrator and has a lot of great content. A big thank you to all the Reddit users who kindly allowed me to use their stories. I couldn't do this without you. And of course, thank you to all of you who continue to support me. I truly do appreciate it so much. And remember,
Papa loves you.